All right, folks, so we completed our second lesson on completing the square today, and there is no question completing the square is challenging the first time you do it. Our first lesson yesterday on completing the square had us focusing on quadratics where a is 1. And today we talked about quadratics, completing the square with quadratics where a is not 1. And the process is a little bit different, but it's totally doable. So let's review. We're going to do 4 problems where we have a as 1, and then we'll do 4 problems where a is not 1. And you have to pull out that a before you get started to completing the square. So if you are looking for help solely with the problems where a is not 1, then you can go ahead and fast forward through this video. But if you would like some review with all of this, then we're going to do these first 4 with quadratics where a is 1. So here we go. X squared minus 4x minus 17, and we want to complete the square. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull that negative 17 out of the way, because x squared minus 4x minus 17 is not a perfect square trinomial. It doesn't factor to be that perfect square, and so we're going to force it to be 1. And we're going to see that down the road that's going to help us as we graph parabolas and understand the nature of a given parabola. So to complete the square, we take a look at b. And we're going to divide b by 2 and square it. So if we take negative 4 and divide by 2, we get 2. And if we square that, we get 4. It's actually not going to matter if b is positive or negative. Knowing that we're going to square it in the end anyways, it's always going to come out to be a positive number here. But here's the thing. We can't just willy-nilly walk around adding 4 wherever we want when we have an expression. And so we need to balance out this expression by subtracting that 4 back off. So now, no harm, no foul, right? We added 4, we subtracted 4. Except the thing is that right now we have this perfect square trinomial that we can go ahead and factor as x minus 2 squared. Simplifying this on the end, we have minus 21, and so now we've completed the square. Good job. All right, let's do one that's a little bit tougher because it has a fraction in it. So x squared minus 1/2 x plus 1. Again, that doesn't factor to be that perfect square that we want it to be, so we're going to force that to happen. So we're going to pull the plus 1 out of the way so that we can go ahead and complete the square here. Now again, to complete the square, we are going to divide b by 2 and then square it. So 1/2 divided by 2 is 1/4, and if I square 1/4, I get 1/16. Okay, so I just added 1/16 randomly, so now I need to take that back off. I want you to notice that when we go ahead and factor this, the number that goes here is this b divided by 2. So it's x minus 1/4. Remember, we divided 1/2 by 2 before we squared it to get the 1/16. Okay, so we said 1/2 divided by 2 is 1/4. That's always the number that's going to go there. That's sweet. And now I'm going to get a common denominator here with my fractions so that I can complete this, clean it up a little bit, and we end up with x minus 1/4 squared plus 15 over 16. Sweet. Okay. One of the other things that we have to make sure when we're completing the square is that we have the quadratic in descending order of exponents, and so that means that this one needs to be reordered There we go. And now we can look at cleaning this up. So we're going to move the 24 out of the way. Good job. And now we're going to take b, we're going to divide by 2 and square it, which means that we're going to add 49 inside the parentheses. To balance that out, we're going to subtract 49 outside of the parentheses. Now again, we said that to factor this is a nice factorization, we're going to end up with x plus 7 squared, and again, that's always that b divided by 2. That's going to give us that number there. And then minus 73 on the end, just cleaning up the negative 24 and the negative 49. All right, so what happens when b is not an even number? In other words, when we have to go ahead and divide by 2, it doesn't divide out nicely. Well, my recommendation to you is not to go with decimals. Stay with the fractions. So we've got 3 divided by 2, that's 3 over 2. Squaring that is easy. It gives us 9 over 4, so 3 over 2 squared is 9 over 4. And we added 9 over 4, so we're going to go ahead and subtract off 9 over 4. Now we said that when we factor this one looks yucky to factor, but we've forced it to be that perfect square trinomial, and so this number that goes right here is 3 over 2, right? Good job. Now we're going to have to clean this up, which means we're going to call for negative 16 over 4 instead of 4, so that we can combine these, and we end up with x minus 3 halves squared minus 25 over 4, and these fractions are just fine. They're beautiful. Don't worry about having fractions in the final answer. Okay, so that's 4 examples of quadratics where a is 1 and we had to complete the square. Today in class we talked about quadratics where a is not 1. So here's an example, 3x squared minus 24x plus 15. And let's go ahead and complete this square. And we said the first thing we need to do then is pull out, get rid of that 3 from in front. Not get rid of it, we're going to pull it out in front. So we've got 3 here. We're going to take 3 out of the 24, and we're going to call it negative 8x. But we're not going to take it out of the 15. The 15's okay, we're just going to move it out of the way. And now we have a quadratic that we can complete the square. So to complete the square, again, we divide b by 2 and square it, which means that we get 16. But here's the thing. This is not actually 16, is it? Because this is not actually negative 8, and this is not actually x squared. This is 3x squared minus 24, and so what we actually added into these parentheses was positive 48, 3 times 16, which means that we need to balance that out by subtracting it. Nice. Okay, so now we said previously that the number that's going to go here is b divided by 2, which is 4. So now we've factored our quadratic. Good job. And now we just need to clean this up, so this comes out to be negative 33. Nice. You can do that. Alright, so here's another example. It looks kind of like there's a 1 in front of the x squared, but actually there's not, right? So there's a negative out in front, and we can't complete the square with that mess either. So we're going to take it out and clean this up. And we're going to just take out the negative from here and here. So now we've got plus 3x. We're going to close this parentheses, and we've still got this positive 12 hanging off the end. Now we did one of these with the 3 just a minute ago. And so we take b, we divide by 2, and then we're going to square it. And so we get positive 9/4 inside the parentheses. But is that actually positive 9/4? In fact, it's not, right? It's actually a negative 9/4. That's what we just put in there. It's negative 9/4. And since I put a negative 9/4 here, to balance it out, I need to add 9/4 over there. All right, so now we have this negative sitting out in front. We've got x plus 3/2 squared. We're going to call this 48 over 4 so that we get that common denominator and we can clean up these numbers on the outside. And so now we have x plus 3/2 squared plus 57/4. Awesome. We're going to find out the importance of that negative. Very important when we're understanding what these look like graphically when we get to that point. Okay. Same thing, we've got to get rid of that 2. So we're going to take this 2 out and call this x squared minus 4x. Close those parentheses. Good job. Now, we're going to divide by 2 and square it, so that's plus 4, right? But again, that's not actually plus 4, it's actually 8, which means that over here we need to subtract 8. Awesome. So now we have 2x minus 2 squared. There it is. We've factored it. And then we have a minus 6 left on the end. Hopefully you're starting to feel these and they're starting to speak to you a little bit and you're getting yourself into a routine. Last one we're going to do. So we're going to take out that 4. We're going to call this x squared plus 8x. And then we're going to leave this 16 there. We're going to divide b, which is 8, by 2 and then square it, so we're going to add 16. But we didn't actually add 16. We added 4 times 16, which is 64, right? So now we need to subtract 64. So now we have 4 times x plus 4 squared. Okay, hopefully you're getting comfortable with these. And we have a negative 64 and a positive 16, which is going to leave us with a negative 48. All right. Good job, everybody. I hope this helped you with your homework, gave you a little bit of extra practice, and I look forward to hearing from anyone who needs a little bit of extra help. Have a good evening.